House Democrats staged a protest during the moment of silence that was being held on the House floor, and it looked like this.
The chair asks that the House now observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the terrorist attack in Orlando. Without objection, 5-minute voting will continue. Without objection, order. Without objection, 5-minute voting will continue. The unfinished business is on the vote and the motion of the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. LaHood, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 5312 unamended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 5312, a bill to amend the High Performance Computing Act of 1991 to authorize activities for support of networking and information technology research and for other purposes.
Order.
And so there you see the Democrats they announced yesterday that they are done with the empty promises, the empty prayers, more likely, not even promises, where we get sad and we say that we're grieving. Some of us actually are. Some of us are simply saying that we are to cover the fact that we care more about the NRA than the actual victims of these attacks, and not actually doing anything about it, and implying that thoughts and prayers are all that we can offer, because we're simply serfs in rural medieval Europe. We're not actually legislators in a country that can change things, that could actually stop this problem. And specifically, the different laws that they're talking about, that they wanted to talk about, that they were shut down by Paul Ryan in trying to talk about, is a bill to close the Charleston loophole, which allows allows a person to buy a gun if their background check isn't completed in a quick enough period of time. That then there's no background check, they can just buy the gun. That happened in Charleston. Let's see, preventing.
Can you imagine if there was a law like that for anything else? Oh,
anything else.
You didn't pass the bar exam the first 3 times? Yeah. No problem. Congratulations, you're a lawyer.
Or you take the bar, and if they don't get to it fast enough, okay, I'm going, put me in court. I'm ready.
In court, dude. I'm ready. It's crazy.
No, because that's something that we should be patient about. Getting a gun, you can be hasty. There's another bill to stop those on the FBI's no-fly list from buying guns. Seems to make sense to me. And yes, I understand that people have been accidentally put on that list and then had their lives thrown upside down by the fact that it took a couple of weeks to be taken off of it. If you desperately need a gun in a 2-week period, I don't want you to have that gun. You should be able to be patient about getting your gun, I think.
If you desperately need a gun in that 2-week period because someone's threatening your life, you should probably go to the police about it.
Yes, yes. And also to prohibit anyone convicted of a hate crime from purchasing firearms, which would be great. Also, I would say do what Connecticut is doing, which is preventing someone who has been convicted of domestic violence. This is someone who has shown that even in a situation where most people find violence even more abhorrent than normal, they resort to violence. And people do die as a result of that. Very often, those who are killed by their spouses, there was an earlier pattern of domestic violence. And so in most places, you can buy a gun, even if you've been convicted of a domestic violence charge. And so the Democrats want to have some actual action on some of that. Paul Ryan, with literally a smile on his face, you can see it in the video that we might be able to get to a little bit later. No, I had time for 60 seconds of silence, and now we're moving on. I don't care about any of these bills. We're not changing anything. Suspected terrorists being able to get guns, that does not matter to the Republicans, and they just proved it.
I have nothing to add other than you've had as many Americans killed by guns in the last few years as you did throughout the entire Vietnam War, and everyone acts like it's no big deal. And yeah, you can't stop 100% of gun violence by doing these changes. But even if you stop half of the slayings, that's a lot of people who are still alive with a lot of family and friends and lovers who will have them around.
Yeah. In no other law do we either do the law if it'll stop all of the bad thing, or if it won't, then we don't do the law. Nobody puts that standard for any other law except for gun violence, where if you say, hey, if we can make it harder to get one of these guns, that can cut down on these sorts of shootings. No, there could still be a shooting. So then let's just fucking give up. Let's not have laws about anything.
I go back to the last segment when someone like Rudolph Giuliani says that the Muslim, someone else's culture is barbaric. What is unbarbaric about a culture that allows these kind of massacres to happen, including kindergarten children to be massacred? What kind of culture lets that happen that isn't barbaric, right? And there's not going to be a law to be passed. And the reason why we allow children to be massacred and 50 gay people at a nightclub to be massacred, the reason why we allow that to happen is because of money. Yeah. It's because of money. And somehow we're still a much better culture than someone else's culture because we allow people to be massacred because it would cost some of us money and the people who control our government money. And then we have half the Democratic Party saying, shut the fuck up, money doesn't bother anything. Everybody's still a great politician, no matter how much money you have in. Do you have any proof that he'll... Yeah. The biggest right now, people are being murdered, massacred in the United States because of money and politics. And if you don't see that, I now pronounce you the shittiest detective in the world.
Rudy Giuliani, and that we showed you the video earlier in the show, said that they attack us because of weakness, because we're too weak. Which, even if you accepted that that was true, his solution is that we have to say the words radical Islamic terrorism. Then we go from weak to strong. We become strong. You are so weak that you see a gay club being shot up, you see a school being shot up, and you say, oh, well, clearly we can't stop them from getting the guns. If that's not fucking weakness, I don't know what is supposed to be weakness. That you think saying words is the cure for weakness? No, actually fucking doing something is the cure for weakness.